U.S. Open round number 2 is underway right on our TV screens. Are the golf tournaments, or is the golf tournament rather, on your TV screen this weekend? Tolos, that's what we're starting the show with on this Friday edition of Wire to Wire. Do you care about the U.S. Open this weekend? Have you watched thus far? Or do you plan on watching? Or do you simply say, no, golf just doesn't do it for me. I don't plan on watching. That is where we're going to start this very segment. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and we want to hear from you, Tolos. We're going to take a deep dive into what has happened thus far in the U.S. Open at Oakmont Diesel. But I do want to gauge the audience, a quick poll to start this Friday, just in terms of who's watching, who's interested, who's not watching, who's not interested. The phone lines and text line, they're open at 844-326-3663. That's 844-FAN-PHONE, F-A-N-F-O-N-E. Do you care about the U.S. Open? Diesel, your thoughts thus far on what you've seen, good or bad?
I'm loving this. And I'm loving it because I want to see I want to see them struggle, yes, but I also want to see a different brand of golf and a different challenge from what these golfers experience on a week-in, week-out basis, right? I mean, most tournaments, you're seeing the best players shoot 5-6 under per round, and they ultimately win this thing at minus 15 or so. As of right now, Cole, there's only 5 golfers under par.
Wow.
Through 2 rounds, and everybody's through one, and most everybody has teed off to this point. There's still a few who I think haven't quite yet teed off this afternoon. But J.J. Spawn, Thriston Lawrence, Sam Burns, Ben Griffin, and Victor Hovland, the only 5 golfers who are under par. There's 4 guys at level par. Xander Schauffele is one of them. And then it is a long way down before you get to a crowd favorite in Rory McIlroy, who is plus 4 through 4 holes today.
Not good.
Which puts him a total of plus 8 overall. The projected cut plus 5, so it looks like Rory's going to miss a second cut in a row. Because he missed the cut last week, right?
He last week, I'm trying to think, he didn't play well.
Or was the week prior?
He didn't play well.
I think it was last week.
Yeah. Look, it's been interesting, and maybe we can get on the live from right now. Maybe we can get some interviews throughout the course of the show with golfers as they come off the course. But I want to hear from you, Tolos, at 844-326-3663 if you are intrigued in watching the U.S. Open this weekend. Diesel, about a year or so ago, a buddy of mine got me involved with a pool. You know what a pool is. Not a swimming pool, but it's where everybody enters in, and you pay like $25, $35, whatever, right, as an entry fee. So they do. This guy does one locally. I'll get you in it next time because you need to join in. This is a lot of fun. So he does it for every major, okay? And for the U.S. Open, there have been 421 entries. So that's the number locked in. And I didn't do really well in the Masters or the PGA Championship pool. But as of lunchtime yesterday, I was number 1 out of 421 entries. Me, who's not a golf guy, who doesn't know the most about golf, was number 1 as of lunchtime yesterday. I had a buddy of mine call me and say, hey, have you checked the leaderboard? And I said, no. He said, well, you're number 1. So from a day until a day later, I have fallen to 10th. There's still a little bit of money. He pays out. It's a $5,000 payout if you finish first. Yeah. Second's like $1,700, but you win money if you finish in the top 20, Diesel. It's just not, obviously, if you're top 10, 6 through 10, it's like $200 each. But as of right now, out of 420 plus entries in this golf pool that I'm in, Clueless Cole is 10th. I have J.J. Spawn on my team, which he's been exceptional this weekend.
You got lucky picking that one. Let's be real.
You don't think that was skill? What do you mean luck? You don't think
now imagine if you set your fantasy NASCAR lineups.
I know what I would do, right?
You'd be right to the top.
I also had Victor Hovland. He's not playing bad. Sam Stevens not playing bad. The only problem is I did have Bryson DeChambeau and Wyndham Clark. Bryson, I said on what was it, Wednesday or Thursday, that I thought Bryson, because of the way he plays, Diesel, and the long drives and the long shots, I thought Bryson had a shot at this thing. However, when you talk about one of the best golfers in the world, the same golfer that won the U.S. Open last year, he has not played well this weekend, and I'm not exactly sure. He had a really bad bogey today, I think more than one, but I was dead wrong about Bryson DeChambeau doing well, whatever reason. Bryson DeChambeau, Diesel, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy.
Scotty Scheffler is +1 overall.
And where does that put him in the leaderboard?
That puts him in, let me refresh this here because I just had it. Scotty Scheffler is at, excuse me, I take that back. He is at +4 overall, +1 today, which puts him tied for 31st. +4 is 9 shots off the lead.
So think about that. Scotty, T31. Bryson is T21, which he's still in the hunt. It's a logjam in that area. And then Rory McIlroy, Diesel, listen to this, T95. +8. I don't know what in the world's happened. He's still playing in round 2. He shot a 74 yesterday in round 1. But think about that. 3 of the biggest names, Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, and Bryson DeChambeau, they're not in the mix in terms of being in the hunt right now.
There are some big names still up there, though.
Yeah. JJ Spawn's people know JJ
Spawn. Decent name. Xander Schauffele is tied for 9th at +1 overall. As you scroll down just a little bit, Brooks Koepka right there in the mix as well at +2. Victor Hovland, like you said, he is one of the 5 golfers under par overall, and he's played well. He's finished today. He's finished today, so he teed off early, which means he didn't have a good day number 1.
He shot a 65 today.
Unbelievable.
Think about this, though. Think about this for a guy. Were you talking about? Are you talking about Sam Burns or Victor Hovland, by the way?
Sam Burns is at -3. Victor Hovland is at -1.
So, for example, yesterday Victor Hovland shot a 71.
Yep.
Today he shot a 68. But look at Sam Burns, for example. Look at the improvement.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it wasn't a great day yesterday, but Diesel was 2 over par. I mean, it's not terrible. He shot 2 over par yesterday, and today, 24 hours, he improved by 7 strokes.
Yeah, 5 under today, 2 over yesterday.
That's nuts. Like, that's really good golf. So, look, Sam Burns right there in the hunt. We know Ben Griffin's name because Ben Griffin this year has played exceptional, especially in the majors. You know, he's been at the top of or near the top of the leaderboard. North Carolina Tar Heel, Chapel Hill, right? So we know who Ben Griffin is because of what he's done this year. But you're right. At least we see some names that we know. Schauffele, to your point, is playing well. Sam Stevens playing really well. Hopefully he gets better. I have him in my pool as well. But outside of those, Brooks Koepka, T15, you know, he's won, 5 majors total? He's a player in, a lot of majors. Ryan Gerard. And I want to say, as of yesterday, let me look and see where he is now. He did not have a good day today. Jacob Bridgman had a really good day yesterday. Shot a 72. Clemson alum, Chapman High School. So one local guy had a good day yesterday. Lucas Glover, hey, T32, not terrible.
Yeah.
That's cut, you're making the cut, right?
This is such an up and down course. Players played well yesterday, and they're struggling today. They played well today. They struggled yesterday. I looked at Victor Hovland as a guy who was not really good with his irons or has not been good with his irons over the past couple of weeks as a guy who was going to struggle, and then look at him. He's under par. Xander Schauffele is a guy that I thought could be really good and because he's accurate off the tee and he's playing well.
Yeah.
He's within contention. He's 5 shots away. And who knows, maybe JJ Spawn, who, again, is 1 under through today, shot around 166. Maybe he struggles tomorrow or Sunday and allows some of these guys to catch back up.
JJ Spawn, you said 1 under yesterday.
No,
4 under. Wow, that was a good day yesterday.
Yeah.
That was a really good day. And do you know where he is right now? Is he close to being done, does it say?
He is through 6.
Through 6, okay. So still got a ways to go today.
Which surprises me because maybe they just didn't reshuffle the tee times quite as much. And, tomorrow, if this holds, he'll be teeing off much later in the day, Sunday as well. But,
yesterday he did not have 1 bogey. I think you said that, right?
Yep.
We talked about that. But today, not the same story. Look at this. Today, round 2, he parred 1, parred 2, bogeyed 3. He came back and birdied 4, parred 5, and birdied. How about that birdie that par 3 on hole 6? He birdied that one. So he's still in really good shape, to your point. J.J. Spaun, I got lucky with my pick. Has anybody ever heard of Tristan Lawrence? Is that Trevor Lawrence's brother? I mean, who is Tristan? Is that how? Or is it Thriston?
It's probably Thriston. He is
Tristan Lawrence?
from Nelspruit, South Africa.
Never heard of the guy.
Never have either. And by the way, J.J. Spaun has fallen back to even par today because he bogeyed number 7. So he's got 2 eagles. He's got 2 birdies, 2 bogeys, and 3 pars on the day so far as he is moving on to the 8th.
Not bad at all. So there's your leaderboard: J.J. Spaun, Thriston Lawrence. I don't think I've ever heard of a name Thriston before. Sam Burns, who skyrocketed, moved up 30 spots, Diesel. 30 spots.
Thriston, by the way, is the 213th ranked golfer in the world. He is sitting right there in the catbird seat in the U.S. Open right now, tied for the lead.
That's not bad.
J.J. Spaun is the 12th ranked player in the world. No, excuse me, the PGA money list.
Yeah. So Oakmont, it is obviously it's been brutal. It's a beautiful course, really good crowds, as Diesel and I have it pulled up on our monitors here in the Fan Upstate Ingles Market studios. Want to hear from you, Tolos, at 844-326-3663. 50 of you Tolos watching the stream on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. On the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, Dewey says, I'm not watching the U.S. Open. I don't care about the hoity-toity nerdling. Golf isn't a real sport. Golf sucks, says Dewey. What was that?
Hoity-toity?
Hoity-toity.
Did he put the R's in there?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Hoity with a D-Y.
Yeah.
It's hoity-toity, Dewey. Gosh.
I'm just reading what he put on there.
I know.
Dewey.
Hoity-toity.
So we mentioned J.J. Spaun. You do have the chasers, if you will. Big names like Scheffler, McIlroy, DeChambeau. They're still a ways back. Scotty Scheffler, though, Diesel, world number 1, right, has been a monster. 3 wins in the last 4 events, including the PGA, the Memorial. His odds have shifted a little bit. He came in as the favorite to win this weekend at plus 280. Bryson DeChambeau, obviously the reigning champion, was priced around 7-1 odds. Rory McIlroy has not lived up to that. Jon Rahm, I think you mentioned Jon Rahm a few minutes ago, or we had some audio from Jon Rahm the other day. 2021 winner, playing really good golf this year. Brooks Koepka, Oakmont veteran, 2 U.S. Open wins in his pocket. And then Xander Schauffele is really good, especially under pressure. So it'll be fun to watch. J.J. Spaun, though, and Sam Burns are 2 guys that are kind of sleepers, rising players, if you will, that aren't talked about a lot. But maybe if they continue to play as well as they have this year, maybe you see some of these guys start to, I don't want to say compete for the face of golf, but find themselves in the conversation in more and more of these big tournaments, Diesel.
We've had a couple of big moments already today. Victor Perez from France made a hole-in-one on the par 3 6th during his second round, 7-iron from 192 yards. See, this is why I don't feel good watching a lot of major golf, because my 7-iron, granted, old clubs, they're lofted completely differently now than what they used to be. And you're talking about pros versus me, an everyday schmuck. My 7-iron, I have it dialed into about 145 yards. Victor's 7-iron goes 192 yards. I'd have to get out my 5 hybrid to get it 192 yards. And maybe that's still 192 on the rollout.
Did you see the par 3 that was like 200-something yards? I don't remember exactly. I watched it in Grant Horvat's video. One of the par 3s on this course is just outrageously long for a par 3. I can't remember the exact yardage. Here's some facts, fun, and trivia, Diesel, regarding the U.S. Open this weekend. Obviously, it is at Oakmont this weekend, but the first U.S. Open was held in 1895 at Newport Golf Club in Rhode Island. Do you know how many players competed in the first ever U.S. Open?
12.
God, that was close.
This is the
11.
guess. What?
11? 11?
That's not an open. That's just like a, hey, whoever was nearby, come
yeah.
play.
Hey,
Hey,
y'all play golf?
You're in a tournament now. Congratulations.
How about this? The youngest winner ever at the U.S. Open, John McDermott, 19 years old. Now, in 1911, again, there might not have been many, many golfers in the U.S. Open. Most wins, Diesel. 4 titles each by Jack Nicklaus, Ben Hogan, Bobby Jones, and Willie Anderson. How about the largest margin of victory? This one's fun. Largest margin of victory at the U.S. Open. You want to guess? I mean, this is an easy one to guess. Tiger, in the year 2000 at Pebble Beach, won the U.S. Open, Diesel. You ready for this? By 15 strokes.
Wow.
The largest margin of victory ever.
Wow.
That is just ridiculous. Lowest 72-hole score, 268, which was 16 under by Rory McIlroy in 2011. Lowest single round, 62, tied by Ricky Fowler and Xander Schauffele in 2023 at the LA Country Club. The Oakmont has hosted 10 U.S. Opens. I said yesterday, the most of any course. Here's the par 3 I was talking about. The 8th hole, think about this, Diesel. You're a golfer. You go up, you finish 7, you go up to the 8th. Par 3. Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell me on a par 3 what club you're going with normally.
Par 3, depending on, you're probably going 6-iron, maybe a 7,
okay,
maybe an 8.
All right, what about if I told you, hey, by the way, the 8th hole, almost 300 yards.
Never pulled out a driver on a par 3 before, but hey, there's a first time for everything.
And that's the one I was talking about, man.
That's absurd. That's absurd.
Nearly 300 yards.
What are these guys hitting? I mean, off the tee, most of these guys are pushing it 300 yards out. So is the goal there just get it somewhere close, lay up on a par 3 and chip onto the green, hope to putt for 3?
How far could you get it, you think?
How far?
From the tee shot.
From the tee shot? Oh, man, like through the air and roll out. I went to the driving range yesterday after the show, and their back wall, the back fence is like 280 or so, and I was playing down on the ground level, a little in front of the other tee boxes. I mean, roll out, I was getting it out there occasionally. So that means I was probably landing it more like 240, 230.
Not bad.
And it would roll out, but that's not every shot. That's just like when I really got a hold of one.
Do you know which big-time golfer, Diesel, has never won the U.S. Open? If I gave you choices, let's say if I gave you 4 choices.
Who's never won the Open?
I don't know if I can give you 4 choices. I'll give you a few.
Okay.
I'm going to give you Ben Hogan. I'm going to give you Arnold Palmer. I'm going to give you Phil Mickelson. And I'm going to give you Ricky Fowler.
It's Phil.
Phil
never won the U.S. Open.
Isn't that crazy? Like, as good as a golfer, and a couple of weeks ago we talked about it, how highly I think of him and what he did. That's unbelievable.
You just like him because he's a degenerate gambler.
Well, no, the reason I like him, and we had this conversation, I had this conversation with a buddy of mine after you and I had the conversation about Phil, and I had him a lot higher than you did. I just think, ultimately, at the end of the day, Phil Mickelson, Diesel, played really good golf, right? That we can all admit. In my opinion, in the toughest time to ever play good golf. You know why?
Yeah.
There was this guy named Tiger Woods.
If Phil Mickelson was playing right now in his prime, we'd be saying Scotty who?
Right.
I mean, Phil was that good. I mean, he is the master of the flop shot. The high arcing, you put it on the green and it sticks right there.
And that's why I have him so
high,
man. That's why I have him so high. Like he was going head to head with the best ever, the greatest of all time.
By the way,
it's tough.
Live update for you here. Coastal Carolina at bat, bottom of the 4th, 2-on, 2-out, runners at first and third, score tied 2-2. Again, 2-2 tie with Coastal and Arizona. They are threatening. They have one runner in scoring position on third. but there are 2 out, so we'll see how this plays out, see if Coastal Carolina can take the lead. Not going to be on that pitch right there because it is a taken strike high and outside.
Only 2 games today, by the way. We'll get into this a little bit later in this very hour, but let's go Coastal, right? Is there anybody in the state of South Carolina? I mean, I feel like it should be a rule. If a team like Coastal's in the World Series, you should be required, regardless of who your team is, to pull for them. Everybody should pull for Coastal Carolina, right?
That's an interesting question here because Clemson got beat by this team twice this year. So you have reason to have beef there. You lost to them twice. And South Carolina, I mean, look, I'm going to say something that's only mildly facetious here. Coastal Carolina could and probably already has surpassed the South Carolina Gamecocks as the second best baseball program in the state. I mean, is there any chance in your mind,
well, that's a segment
especially
itself,
with Paul
right?
Maneri staying on at the helm of South Carolina, there's no way South Carolina is going to be better overall than Coastal Carolina next year. Coastal's a better program. They're a better program than South Carolina. They retired a legendary coach. They picked right back up and didn't miss a beat. As a matter of fact, have had a better season than they did last year with a new head coach. Coastal's the better program. South Carolina is now the 3rd best program in the state. Maybe not even the 3rd.
Well, that'll certainly
come at me, South Carolina fans. You don't really have an argument. You don't.
I was thinking about that.
Other than SEC, where we play in a hard conference. Who cares? You suck.
You know what? What if Coastal and South Carolina and Coastal and Clemson played 2 games? I think Clemson and Coastal played twice this year. I think it'd be cool for them to play Clemson and South Carolina twice every year. That way you get a good gauge of like, okay, they beat Clemson twice. I don't know, Diesel, to your point, when you looked at the seeding in the postseason, I believe you were on vacation the day it came out after Labor Day. Clemson was seeded higher than Coastal, even though Coastal beat Clemson twice.
Yeah.
How do you say – let me ask one more question about your take there. You said they're the better program. How do you say they're second?
There's
a
very arguable point there. I mean, now
and who's playing right now?
Now you're getting into conference reputation. You're getting into saying, well, Clemson just has to be better because they played in the ACC. Are they? Because Coastal beat them twice and has advanced farther.
And Coastal made it out of their own regional.
Yeah.
Clemson didn't.
I
don't know. I'm just saying if you're going to bring that up, why are they second?
Is Coastal the number 1 baseball program in the state of South Carolina?
Who's playing right now?
Tolos, 844-326-3663.
You might have just lit a fume. I don't know that you're ready for that.
Can you give me a legitimate reason other than the patch on the jersey that says otherwise? Call in now. Let's have a real conversation
They're
about
already
it.
going on the chat about it.
If we don't get to that in the next segment, let's get to this, Cole. Who has more egg on their face? The father for lying to the son, or the son for perpetuating the lie without fact-checking dear old dad? A wild story out of Major League Baseball that's caught up in the Red Sox-Yankees feud. We'll talk about it, and possibly this Clemson-South Carolina coastal debate will rage on next on the Fan Upstate. Cole, you could read off the names of star golfers who are not going to make the cut as if it was the top 10 at any other tournament. As of right now, the projected cut line +5, and it appears, unless this thing moves, that Tony Finau, Matt Fitzpatrick, Rory McIlroy, who else? Tom Hogue, Tom Kim, Eric Van Rooyen, Dustin Johnson, the previous champion here 9 years ago. These guys are not, Justin Thomas, not going to make the cut. Unbelievable how hard this course is. And it is just brutalizing some of the best golfers.
Is that what golf fans want? The best golf? I mean, maybe it is. Maybe that's the one-off, where you don't want to see the best. Look, everybody has a different opinion on it. I want to see the best golfers in the world on Saturday and Sunday.
I think it acts as an equalizer.
It does.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see Detry and Stevens and Ben Griffin and Sam. No offense to them. I want to see the best golfers in the world.
You don't want to see some other names have a chance to.
I don't like change.
Oh, okay. That's how it is. Things may be changing here in the state of South Carolina, Cole, when it comes to the pecking order of the top programs here in the state. We sparked the conversation in the last segment. We keep it going in this one, and we get to another story here in just a moment that's just absolutely absurd how this thing is played out. But, Tolos, how would you rank the top, let's call it top four college baseball programs in the state of South Carolina? Who's number one? Is it automatically a team from a power conference? I don't think so. Coastal Carolina has a very strong case.
I guess
having won a national championship and now having advanced farther than Clemson and South Carolina have, that they are the premier baseball program in the state.
And, Diesel, what's fun about this conversation that people have to remember, this changes. Right? It changes year to year. South Carolina 3 years from now may be really good. But right now, today, that's where we are. That's what we're talking about. It's the 13th of June. If you're asking the question on the 13th of June, now that we almost have put an end or put a vote in the college baseball season, we're just now starting the World Series. If you ask that question today, my biggest question to the Tolos and those out there listening would be, how do you put anybody above Coastal? In terms of the best program in the state, Gary Gilmore, you mentioned, won a national championship. Kevin Schnall, the awesome baseball coach. I don't know. I guess that's where I'm at. How do you put anybody above them?
Yeah. It's hard to do. It's hard to. Now, if you wanted to go back and look at historical averages over the past 5 years, I think you have to at least go back to the point where Coastal joined joined the Sun Belt, but maybe it really doesn't matter. Does it matter if they won a national championship coming out of the Big South? They didn't have to go through the gauntlets that Clemson and South Carolina do every year coming out of the Big South, but when it mattered, they won, and that's what matters,
Have you seen this video clip, by the way? Scotty's livid. I don't know what about, but they're showing him at the U.S. Open. And now he's about to go tee off at the driving range. But he was yelling. And I don't know, is that a swing coach right there maybe? Or is that an official? He was not happy. I don't know what it was exactly that he was upset about. But maybe his play this week?
I don't know. Let's see where Scotty Scheffler is at the moment. Let's do a quick.
He is not happy.
He is tied for 32nd with a +4 today. He is finished. He has finished his round +4, +1 yesterday. So he is, as of right now, it appears that he's safely within the cut line. I don't think anything is going to drastically change that and lower that cut to +3.
JT and Greer on the text line. The Hub City Spartanburgers text line, by the way. I'm going to the Spartanburgers tonight. See,
nice.
They've lost 4 in a row, Diesel.
Yeah.
Maybe I can be the good
30 and 30.
4 in a row. You got to get the win tonight. On the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, JT and Greer says, Clemson hasn't won a College World Series. Coastal has and South Carolina has. Texter says, did you know the ACC only has one baseball national championship? Texter says, yeah, talk college baseball. I guess my thoughts to answer your question would be this. here we are in 2025. In the modern era, Coastal has a national championship.
Yep.
That's rare, by the way. It's hard to win. South Carolina has two, 2010 and 2011, but it's been over a decade. Clemson has 0. Lately, Diesel, let's look at lately. This is a what have you done for me lately society, right? Coastal Carolina, multiple regional and super regional appearances since 2016. 2024 Sun Belt champs, hosted a regional in 23. They're playing right now, by the way, in Omaha, where Clemson and South Carolina are not. They're a top 10 team in ERA, home runs, and RPI entering the College World Series.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. There's just right now, again, things will change, and they always do. But right now, no. Coastal's the number 1 team in the state, and that's a fact.
So what's your top 4?
D1.
Division 1. No, overall. You can say overall because I know where you're going to go with this.
Overall, I'm gonna put a D2 team in there. You know, I'm gonna be a little biased. I would go Coastal 1, Clemson 2, North Greenville 3, and South Carolina 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my 4.
I mean, North Greenville is set up for future success. South Carolina is not.
National
South Carolina
championship
has an anchor wrapped around their ankles.
Yeah, and look, Coastal and North Greenville, I know NGU's, D2, but North Greenville's won a national championship in the last 3 years.
Man,
Carolina can't get in the postseason.
If NGU and South Carolina played a 3-game set,
3-game set,
now,
the Gamecocks would win because of pitching depth, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But the reality is when South Carolina plays these midweek games in D1, they did well, by the way, this year in midweek games, but midweek teams somehow sometimes beat the top programs because it's not about pitching depth. It's about a one-off, right? Yeah. It's not a series. It's you get to throw your best pitcher or whoever you feel comfortable throwing out there. And I'm not dumb enough to sit here and say, North Greenville would beat Coastal and Clemson or whatever. I mean, South Carolina and Clemson. I'm just saying they've been so consistent in the last 5 years. They've won a national championship. Coastal's won one in the last 10. South Carolina, they have gone from great to horrible, worst season ever in school history. This really isn't, in my opinion, a debate here.
Current situation, still tied 2-2, bottom of the 5th. Coastal at the bat, 1 out, runner on first, and the hitter who is currently at the plate is 0 for 2 today.
Ouch.
So we'll see if this hitter can poke one out there and maybe move that runner around. Here we go, Cole. This is a wild story coming out of the, as you know, contentious. It's a good word for it. Contentious Red Sox-Yankees rivalry. There is a rookie pitcher for the Boston Red Sox by the name of Hunter Dobbins who was interviewed about this rivalry, and he said something to the effect of, I would quit baseball before I ever played for the New York Yankees, which, of course, Red Sox fans absolutely loved this. But Hunter Dobbins has been quoted in the past talking about his dad, who he claims was drafted by the New York Yankees. Didn't play for the Yankees, ended up being traded over to the Diamondbacks. But Hunter Dobbins talking about his dad being drafted by the Yankees. Here's the problem with that. There's no record of that whatsoever.
Really?
No record whatsoever of Hunter Dobbins' father, Lance, being drafted by the Yankees before being traded to the Diamondbacks. So he even talked about his dad having a friendly relationship with Andy Pettitte. And the problem with spouting this kind of information is it's all fact checkable, and people are going to fact check you. The problem is it's not a fact at all. There is no record whatsoever of Lance Dobbins ever playing Major League Baseball.
What?
And so it begs the question, did Hunter make this up? Or did Lance lie to his son his entire life about being a major leaguer? Which, I don't know what's worse.
That is the weirdest story I think I've heard in the last week.
Yeah. So here's a quote from Hunter Dobbins. He said, "It was stuff that I had heard growing up and seen pictures of from my dad."
What?
He said, "At the end of the day, it's just from my dad and what I kind of grew up, what kind of grew my love for the game. At the end of the day, I don't go fact check my dad." So he never bothered to go back and check. He just believed him.
His dad lied.
His dad lied. His dad lied to his son about being a big leaguer. So, really wild story.
Hey, son, I played in the major leagues with the Yankees.
He said, quote, if the Yankees were the last team to give me a contract, I'd retire. This is a 25-year-old rookie, by the way, who says I'd retire if the Yankees gave me a contract. So the comments went viral, and of course, Red Sox fans absolutely loved him for it.
Oh, I bet so.
And people at the New York Post said, okay, let's go check in on this story about your dad being drafted by the Yankees. Turns out it's completely bogus, and no one. They even asked the Yankees general manager Brian Cashman. They talked to former Diamondbacks general manager Buck Showalter. They called Andy Pettit. No one has any information about this guy Lance Dobbins. Major League Baseball confirmed to a New York Post reporter Joel Sherman that Lance Dobbins was never listed on any major league rosters. Turns out that he did play 2 years for an independent league, but nothing at all with Major League Baseball.
That is crazy. I've never heard such.
So what the hell, Dad? You put me out here.
Yeah.
You know, you leave me in the
You lied
trenches
to me
taking
your
grenades.
whole life. I'd be upset about that. By the way, a new leader diesel, Thriston Lawrence, who nobody's ever heard of outside of, the diehard golf fan, is now leading J.J. Spawn, who is second. Thriston Lawrence, -5. Not bad. Look at that rough right there. That's tough.
Brutal.
Stuff.
That looks like my lawn right now. If I went and dropped a golf ball in my grass, I'd lose it just like that.
Oh, boy, that's tough. College World Series this weekend. Tolos will give you an update of what's happening today, plus our thoughts on who could win it all. That's next. Diesel, when you take you're married, you take your wife somewhere and you bet on something, or you're at a casino, it's always the woman who knows nothing about gambling or sports who wins,
the
right?
one who picks our bracket based on which mascots she likes better.
Right, or what jersey colors are the prettiest. Well, that's happening right now. The leaderboard, the U.S. Open pool that my buddy has invited me into, my buddy Brock, who was on the show the other day, right? He invited me into this pool a couple years ago, and I'm in it every major. That's me today. I'm now 4th out of 420-plus golf guys. So I feel like, you know what, every now and then a blind squirrel finds a nut. And if I could get into some money this weekend, I feel really, I guess it's luck. But what do they say? You'd rather be lucky than good. I mean, who wants to be good? I'll take luck all day of the week.
At
or
fourth
every day.
place right now, if it were to end right now, what would you win?
Oh, that's a good question. 4th, I would win $513.
For a $25 entry.
Yeah, that's not a bad,
bad.
return, right? But I want that first place, $5,133. That's what I want. Me and you will we'll be going to the Longhorn Steakhouse after the show's over at $5,000 win. I mean, I tell you what, I might have to get into golf if I hit that, right? College World Series happening, and Diesel, during the commercial break, something big happened. What was it?
Yeah, 2 outs, runners on first and third. Right-handed hitter for Coastal Carolina. Arizona had moved into the shift. Second baseman was playing much, much closer to the bag than he normally would be. And the Coastal Carolina hitter poked one ground ball right where the second baseman normally would stand. Runner on third scored. The runner that had been on first, he advanced to third. Wouldn't ultimately matter because the next batter did get out. But Coastal Carolina takes the lead 3-2, top of the 6th.
Let's go.
And there are no outs for Arizona, runner on first.
Let's go. How about that? I don't know, man. Like, maybe I'm starting to become a believer in this Coastal team. I mean, I didn't know if they would be able to get out of their super regional, right? And lo and behold, they're up 3-2. Still baseball to play. Still 4 innings, right? But top of the 6th, we'll take it. Coastal Carolina leads Arizona 3-2 tonight. Diesel.
If you're Coastal Carolina, would you be afraid that next year South Carolina hires Kevin Chenal? If I'm South Carolina, I am throwing a Brinks truck at him. Anything he wants to get him to come down.
They're too dumb. It wouldn't do that.
Well, he doesn't have any SEC pedigree.
SEC. There's only one championship. No, they're two. No, they'd find a way to screw it up.
You wouldn't hire a national championship coach because you don't like the patch on the jersey. Right. Come on.
Well, they did the same thing with Landon Powell, national championship coach, but he's on Division II because that matters. Louisville, Oregon State tonight, 7:00. Both teams 40-plus win teams on the season. Diesel, Oregon State, though, in my mind, is the favorite. I've been kind of high on them this postseason. Louisville, Oregon State tonight at 7. You mentioned Coastal Arizona happening right now. And then the 2 games tomorrow. The underdog in this tournament, the gritty story, the Cinderella story, if you will. Murray State goes to UCLA tomorrow at 2:00, and then tomorrow night, this one's going to be fun. Saturday night, 7:00, LSU Arkansas. Good old SEC matchup in the first round in Omaha.
Are they calling this like the Battle of the Boot? Is it Arkansas that's north of Louisiana? I'm not great at my geography. Yeah, it's the boot. That's the boot game, right?
Should be.
Yeah.
Should be. Should be.
They call it that in football. The battle for the Golden Boot, I think is what they call it.
Quick picks on this Friday. We both going Coastal to win. They're up 3-2
tonight. Yes.
Okay.
Today,
so
yes.
Oregon State, Louisville tonight. You have?
I have Oregon State.
Me too. I like Oregon State tonight. Tomorrow, UCLA, Murray State. Diesel, you're picking?
UCLA.
Me too. I would love to see Murray State do it. I just don't know.
I would love it.
Now, here's a tough one. Tomorrow night, LSU, Arkansas. You are taking?
I'm taking Arkansas.
Me too. I think we're agreeing on these.
What state is Murray State in?
Oh, wow. Murray State. What state? They're in Murray.
That is the name of the town.
What state?
So you're right about that.
Let me close.
I'll give you 3 guesses.
Okay, real quick. Murray State, Louisiana. Okay, Murray State. Southeast.
Can't tell you that.
Mississippi. One more. Murray State. Murray State's in. Murray State's in Arkansas.
Oh, my God.
Is that
No,
right?
it's not right.
What is it?
It's in Kentucky.
You're kidding me.
Murray, Kentucky.
Murray.
When we come back, Cole, the not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, but the 7 most interesting storylines going into the 2025 college football season. We'll run through them. Tolos, you can tell us which ones you find the most fascinating. We'll get into that conversation next. Kevin Schnall got his work cut out for him right now. His team is in a pickle. Bases loaded, no outs, and Arizona has just tied the game. So 3-3 tie, bases still juiced with no outs in the top of the sixth.
That's not good.
Arizona could bust this thing wide open right here with an extra base hit or a home run. So we'll see. We'll keep you updated as this segment goes along, what's going on here in the top of the sixth for the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. But Cole, as we get towards the 2025 college baseball season, and you revealed earlier this week we have 10 weeks to go until college football is here. One of the most interesting things happening to and inside the sport. A lot of really interesting conversations to be had. I've got 7 of them. We'll roll through them very quickly, and then we can discuss after we get to that point. So I think the most interesting thing, Cole, is the change to the 12-team playoff seeding system. We're going to have straight seeding this year. The top 4 teams are going to get byes regardless of conference championships. Very interesting there.
Yeah, it is, and I'm glad you brought this up because I meant to bring this up, Diesel. I did my biggest storylines one of the days you were out of the college football season, and what my biggest storylines were heading into the 2025 season. I think I did it on that Tuesday or Wednesday when you were out, maybe that Monday. But I want to see, I'm pulling mine up from that show, I want to see how yours stack up against mine. Sure. That wasn't my first, but I'm going to pull mine up from a couple of weeks ago when you were out because I asked the Tolos for theirs. I'm intrigued to see how off yours are from mine.
Coastal fails to turn 2. They got the out at second, but not in time to get the out at first. Arizona looks like they have scored the go-ahead run 4-3, now with 1 out in the top of the 6th. So here we go. Strap in if you're a Coastal fan. Second most interesting thing, Cole, is the historic NIL House versus NCAA settlement that is poised to basically change everything we know about college athletics. $20.5 million cap that schools can distribute annually. They're going to have to retroactively pay about $20 billion to any student athlete that has played in the last 10 years or so. Now NIL deals and offers are going to have to go through a clearinghouse. I think that one's really, really fascinating as well.
Yeah. I mean, and what's interesting about these storylines is the first 2 of yours are off the field things.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what's interesting
about
it.
Well, mine weren't necessarily in any particular order.
Yeah.
They weren't. This isn't a ranking in my opinion. They are very important things, but yes.
I'll give you my first 2. Well, you want to finish yours and then I'll give you mine?
Yeah, we'll just run down the list. Arch Manning taking the helm at Texas. That one's really interesting. You've got the high-profile coaches who could be on the hot seat. Mike Norvell, a very interesting case study there. Kalen DeBoer also. I mean, is he on the hot seat if he doesn't have a phenomenal season at Alabama? I think that one is really, really interesting. I think the transfer portal, as always, is a fascinating storyline. You've got the Big Ten and Ryan Day really pushing for automatic berths into the college football playoff, and just that whole argument, the general debate about automatic berths versus the format, so the 5+11 or 4-4, whatever it's going to be. Big conversation is about the Pac-12 reconstituting itself with Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Utah State. Basically, any school that puts state in their name is going to get into the Pac-12. I think those are really fascinating storylines.
I like them. I'll tell you in a second after I give you mine which of yours I think are the most fascinating. I gave 3 a couple of weeks ago, Diesel, when you were out. My 3 most intriguing college football storylines, and Tolos, we want to hear from you as well on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. Phone lines are also open at 844-326-3663. Do you agree with Diesel's? Do you agree with mine? Or do you think they're both trash? Let us know. Or what are your biggest storylines heading into the college football season? My number one was Arch Manning era, Diesel. The Arch Manning era, you had that one in yours as well.
Yep.
There are so many to choose from. I think the storylines as we enter 2025 are really, really juicy. But Arch Manning and what Texas can do with Steve Sarkisian and Arch, that's my number one storyline going into the 2025 season. Yep, it's the very, very top.
I mean, I get it that it's Texas and everything is bigger in Texas. It's on my list, right? It's there. Is it the most fascinating thing to me? First-year starter, how does he do? No, not really. I mean, yeah, tremendous amount of hype for the guy, but I wouldn't put it as my number one.
Number two for me was Bill Belichick. That is my second, and I will be honest, it was my first for a long time until I flipped him. Bill Belichick was up at the very top of my list, Diesel, in terms of 2025 most intriguing storylines. When you talk about the greatest coach of all time to dip down into the college ranks, there's something about that. Whether it's special or not, I guess that's TBD, but there's something about that. There's something to watch. So Bill Belichick at North Carolina. And I know North Carolina's not a blue blood. It's not like he went to LSU, right? He did go to North Carolina. But still, Bill Belichick is my almost 1B most interesting storyline. I can't get enough.
Maybe it's my fatigue with the whole storyline and the fact that we're not really talking about Bill and North Carolina on the field. You know, they're not crushing it in the transfer portal. They're not crushing it in recruiting for next year. And so maybe it's just that it's a delayed gratification story for me in the sense that it's going to take 5 weeks of the season to find out if Bill Belichick can work a miracle in Chapel Hill. I'm going to look up the North Carolina Tar Heels football schedule for this year and see if you want to do a quick win-loss, we can do it.
Okay.
Let's see here. Let me pull up the
I think I'm
2025
higher
schedule.
on Bill at North Carolina than you are. I think who was it yesterday that asked us during the Tolo takeover how we felt about Bill Belichick?
Yeah.
And you said not so much. I think I'm a little higher, not like super high, but let's do it. Let's see.
All right.
I haven't looked at it.
Week 1, TCU.
Where's the game?
In Chapel Hill.
God. I mean, I'm supposed to give you an answer here, you know? I'm going to go North Carolina hosting Chapel or hosting TCU. I'm Diesel. I'm going to say North Carolina drops their opener to TCU.
Loss. Okay.
0-1.
On the road at Charlotte.
That's a win.
It's a win.
Yep.
At home hosting Richmond.
That'll be a win for Belichick.
On the road at UCF.
That'll be a close win.
Okay.
UCF's not like they're not terrible. They're a little sleeper.
they're not bad.
A close win,
So that's 3-1 going into the bye week.
which is not terrible. Not terrible.
Then they face Clemson in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, that'll be a loss.
It's a loss. All right. On the road at Cal.
On the road at Cal's tricky. This is a fun one with Bill Belichick in this win-loss game. Cal wasn't good last year, right?
But are they gonna drop one they shouldn't drop just because it's year one of a new head coach?
I'll tell you what, you've made me think twice. With TCU and Cal, I'll say North Carolina squeaks it out.
Okay.
I do think
You got them at 4-2.
Yeah.
Let's see. At home against Virginia.
Yeah, they'll win that one. Virginia's in a bad spot.
On the
Sorry,
road
Elliot.
at Syracuse.
I think they'll drop that one.
Okay.
It just seems like one they'll drop.
At
On the
home
road,
versus
trap game.
Stanford.
Ooh, gosh. I don't really think North Carolina's going to be great, Diesel. That's why I'm struggling with a lot of these. I'll go win, though. I think they take care of Stanford.
All right. At Wake.
I think it's a close win. North Carolina wins close.
At home against Duke.
Rivalry game. Belichick versus Duke. Who gets it? That'll be fun. This is tougher than I will admit to you. This is a lot tougher than I thought it would be.
Maybe it's because you don't think they're going to be that good.
I don't. and I think a lot, you've heard me say several times, a lot of these are going to be close games.
Yep.
Duke. I don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback at Duke. They're They had two quarterbacks transfer out. I'll go North Carolina here.
Okay. How about last game of the season on the road, Carter Finley Stadium against NC State?
On the road?
Yep. So essentially two rivalry games in a row.
Dave Doran gets them in his first year.
Dave Doran gets them.
Yep.
So you've got them at 8-4.
Is that what I have?
8-4.
Wow. It's not bad. I mean, it's not like ACC championship work, but it's North Carolina is North.
I mean, you moved on from a Mac Brown who was kind of right in that same vein of an 8-win, 7, 8, 9-win kind of guy.
And in his first season, like you don't expect him to go win 10 games in his first season. 8-4. The reason it was so tough is because, like I said, like you said, I just don't think they're going to be that good. By the way, Rory finally birdied today.
Wow.
So now he's at 77.
Kane Sisk says Clemson and South Carolina quarterbacks contending for the Heisman Trophy is on his list of most interesting storylines this year. Very interesting.
My last one was I gave you Arch 1, Diesel, Belichick 2. Yep. My last, and this is not last by any means, but my third, if I had to rank them, I'm interested in the SEC if it will claim its dominance again. I'm really intrigued there. I really am. And maybe if I had to redo it, I'd go Belichick 1, Arch 2, SEC 3. SEC reclaiming its dominance. Will it happen? That to me is a really fascinating story because, I know they were still really good last year. They just weren't what we're used to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would take a lot. I mean, a long drought of the SEC not winning a national championship before most people come off of the idea that the SEC is the most dominant conference in college football or is the best conference in college football.
You think it would take like 3 years of
honestly, I think it would take like 8 years of not winning a national championship.
Wow.
Before that would change. I mean, think about it. You still have elite level play in the SEC. That's not changing. Even if you're not winning national championships, you still have elite level play.
Yeah.
And it just means that in a tournament format, things didn't fall your way for a long period of time. So I don't know. I don't know that a team coming out of a tournament format really says that conference is the best conference in the sport.
No, I'm with you there. I don't know that you can just say, the Clemson won the national championship. That means the ACC is the best. I don't subscribe to that. Let me ask you this, though. Let's fast forward in time. It's 2025.
That's now.
That's now. Let's fast forward, Diesel. It's 2025. Let's fast forward. I'm trying to think of how many years I'm going to fast forward here is what I'm saying. It's 2025. Let's fast forward 2 seasons. So you and I are sitting here on June the 13th, 2027, okay? We're sitting in these chairs.
They hadn't fired us yet?
No, they hadn't fired us yet. And Clemson, Diesel, think about this. Stay with me here. Clemson won the national championship in 2025 is what we're going to say.
Okay.
2026, it was Ohio State. So let's pretend we go and fast forward to the year 2027. And Diesel, you and I are sitting here in 2027. And on these airwaves, we say the SEC hadn't had a national championship winner since 2023. That's only 2 years away from now, by the way.
Yeah.
If Clemson were to win it this year, Ohio State were to win it next year, which is, there's somebody else from another conference.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you would say at that point there's more parity in college football. So all of the positioning, all of the conference realignment has ultimately been for naught because you stack all the most powerful programs in 1 or 2 conferences, and it hasn't meant a thing for the SEC other than making the most money.
Yeah, and I just wonder, how many years it would take, though. And that's why I asked you that. It would be fast because 2023 was the last time an SEC team won it, which was Georgia. 2024, Michigan won. 2025, the year, not the season, Ohio State won, right? The year in January. So it's been the 2022 season since an SEC team won. The year of 2023, though, that January, it just does become interesting, and that's why it's one of my top storylines going into the college football season.
Coastal Carolina has just scored to tie the game. Didn't look up and see exactly what happened there, but there was a runner on third. Must have been some form of a sacrifice fly or a fielder's choice to go to first base and get the out, because there are no runners on base. Score tied 4-4, 2 outs, bottom of the sixth. Coastal and Arizona tied in the College World Series. Yeah, I mean that's a really fascinating point there. If you're talking about 3, 4, potentially down the road 5 seasons in a row where the SEC is not crowning a national champion.
How long?
How long? And look, I mean, we're going to change the format before that happens. What if we're at like 18 teams by then?
We'll be at more.
We're going to 16. Right? That's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when people start saying play in for the 16? Now you're talking about an 18 team. I mean, that becomes a completely different beast and a gauntlet of how many wins you have to have. You got to win in the round of 16, round of 8, round of 4, and 2. So you got to have 4 straight wins to win that thing. And we're talking about in the new upcoming era of roster limits, of NIL payments coming from the schools. I mean, everything's going to change by then. So.
Everything's going to change. It's going to look a lot different. There's no doubt. Look, that's what this college landscape, when we talk about evolving, Diesel, it's only going to continue to evolve more and more. So we'll see. It should be fun to see, though. SEC, will they reclaim their dominance? That's what I'm interested to see.
JD brings up a good question there. What will Colorado look like without Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders? Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting one. Well, I mean, are you saying because he might take another job?
I'm just saying, where's he been? Where's he been?
His health is bad. Oh, that's terrible.
It is.
I don't want to think about that.
No, it shouldn't. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But you know what? Everybody talks about, getting older and getting up there in age. At some point, I wonder how long Deion, if he were to continue to have health issues, hopefully not. Hopefully he wouldn't hang it up, because I think he's great for the sport of college football, right? I really do.
Yep.
Diesel, when we come back, we go to Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha.
Not literally. You and I aren't going to go go get in a plane. But we're going to go to Omaha and talk to Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered about the tournament happening in Omaha. Right now, that's next. Time to take a trip to Omaha, Nebraska, talk a little college baseball as Coastal Carolina and Arizona are battling right now. One more game later this evening. Chris Phillips, SEC Unfiltered, joins the show. And before we get into the games happening tonight and tomorrow, Chris, Diesel and I were having this conversation about an hour ago. In terms of the best baseball program currently in the state of South Carolina, and if I were to tell you that Coastal is the best program in the state, would you have any rebuttal for that, Chris Phillips?
Guys, first things first, appreciate you having me on. Excited to be talking to you from Omaha. And in regards to the Palmetto State, I mean, I think right now you could make a very real argument that Coastal is the top program in the state. I mean, it's certainly, with all due respect, not South Carolina. I think you look over the last decade or so, or, even currently, certainly. I mean, I don't think there's much argument there. And, Clemson, while I have a lot of respect and high regard for the Clemson baseball program, and I think they're certainly one of the mainstays in college baseball, the postseason success just hasn't been there. So,
and they lost to Coastal twice.
And they lost to Coastal twice. I think right now you have to give the nod to Coastal Carolina. I think they've earned that right to be called the best program in the Palmetto State. And, I mean, guys, let's face it, that should be a lot of motivation for the two flagship universities in the state, if you will, to get things fixed and get things right.
Yeah, Chris, you're there. You're on the ground in Omaha. We're seeing, bend but don't break baseball for Coastal Carolina when they're playing defense in the field. A 4-4 game in the top of the 7th inning. If you're any other team in this tournament, just focusing on this game right now, Coastal and Arizona, which one of these teams do you least want to face?
Diesel, it's a really good question because I think both are really capable. I have a lot of belief in this Coastal team to go really deep. I love the pitching staff. I mean, I think just the entire club that Kevin Schnall has put together, 1 through 9, they're really gritty and tough in the lineup. But Arizona is a team that, went to Chapel Hill and beat a team that many picked to win the national championship. So, I mean, who do you want to see least? I don't think you'd be thrilled to see either. But, guys, I think when you think about the fact that Coastal Carolina, if they win today, will be winners of 28 straight, you never want to see a team that's on that kind of heater that also, too, features the kind of arms they have. I mean, they didn't even throw their top guy today. So I think you'd rather see Arizona, but I think either way, I don't think you're going to be very thrilled to see the loser or the winner of this game.
You look at Coastal Carolina and what they've done, to your point, Chris, about their hot streak, their win streak. Do they have the pitching depth, the arm depth in your mind to be able to go into, look, a super regionals, best 2 out of 3, right? That set up nicely for them. But in this kind of environment with the pitching depth and playing really good teams, do they have that depth in your mind?
I think they do. Yeah, I think they do, especially if you can stay in that winner's bracket. Essentially, it's like playing 2 weekend series, right? If you keep winning, it takes 3 to get to the finals, and you got a best-of-3 series to win it all. So it's why winning that game 1 for all these clubs is so important. Not that it's not doable, but it's a much, much tougher task, obviously, navigating through the loser's bracket. So I think Coastal certainly has shown they have the depth. Their starters need to pitch well. Because I think the bullpen is just okay. It's not great. But that front line rotation they have, I think, is one of the best, if not the best, you could argue, in the entire tournament. So, yes, I think they've got the pitching depth, especially with those front line guys, to make a deep run. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question, guys. And Vegas agrees. Like, look at the Vegas odds to, win the national championship. I think they've got, the 4th best odds to come through and do it. So there's a reason for that. The pitching staff is a big reason why.
Chris Phillips, SEC Unfiltered, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Chris, you've been known to play the role a time or two of agitator, and you play the role well. So how has the backlash been from Coastal fans after you wrote them off in the Auburn series, and how accepting have they been of your mea culpa since you admitted that they are, in fact, legit?
Yeah, I was wondering how long it was going to take before we get to that. I was super complimentary of them to start out, obviously. Listen, man, I mean, I've never shied away from having a bold take and, like you said, playing that role of agitator, or some may even say I'm entering my villain era, at least on Twitter, it seems. But, No, we've had a lot of fun over the last few weeks. It started back in the regional. I felt confident that Florida, and I still say I think Florida got a draw that they were excited about. I think SEC fans who wanted to see as many teams as possible advance were excited about, and they got their tails kicked. Granted, that was East Carolina that did it, but Coastal, I think, felt disrespected by that, and certainly it culminated with the Auburn Super Regional. I felt good about Auburn taking down Coastal, and that, obviously didn't happen. And the official Coastal Carolina University sports account having a fun time with me, which I really appreciated and was flattered, and we'll take the free advertising and the free marketing any day of the week. But no, I've passed by a couple of Coastal fans, not a ton. And I mean, honestly, there hasn't been any chirping of any sort. I'm mentally prepared for it. I know it's probably coming, and it is what it is, man. Like I live with the take. It's all good. They got me. I'm happy for Coastal fans. Happy to see them in Omaha. I think it's a really fun story. But no, it's been fun. It's at the end of the day, man. We always say the beauty's in the banter, and that's how I operate. And I'm willing to, And by the way, I believe in tipping the cap, giving credit where credit's due, which is why obviously I went there after the fact and did that very thing. So yeah, we've had a lot of fun with each other on social media over the last few weeks. But yeah, we'll see if it picks up in person. Those social media interactions, you guys know, have a tendency to not carry over to the real world, shockingly enough.
Chris, what do you make of what happened with Kevin Schnall and Kevin O'Sullivan?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in control what you can control. And so what I don't agree with, I do think there's some blame to be placed on the tournament directors changing the time of the game at 3:30 a.m. and some other things that happen behind the scenes with some of the actions from Coastal Carolina's field crew that I'm very well aware of. And so you place some blame there, but at the end of the day, guys, I believe that you got to control your emotions. And I think Kevin O'Sullivan would agree. You saw the apology that was issued. You can't let it escalate and get to that point. But again, the only point that I made was he was not overreacting to nothing. Like something happened. So I think it's a big to-do over nothing, to be honest with you guys. I think emotions things got out of hand. People got over emotional. A little bit on Coastal and ECU's side, a lot on Kevin O'Sullivan's side. So, at the end of the day, guys, life happens to you. The only thing you can control is how you react to it. And again, I know Kevin O'Sullivan knows that, and he understands that. But the only point that I made on social media, which went so crazy, was, Coastal, maybe not even so much ECU, but the tournament directors as well. They played a part in it. Like they very obviously tried to gain an advantage on Florida, moving that game up. Again, I know for a fact, did not text them till like 3:30 in the morning. So they wake up, things are thrown out of flux. And I know people say, well, it's only an hour. Well, if I text you at 3:30 in the morning, hey, your show, guys think about it, your show's starting an hour earlier than normal. You're not going to be happy about it. You may not react that way, but you're not going to be thrilled with getting that notification at that time. So I think that's where it came from. Obviously, it boiled over. Got to be better. Can't let your emotions rule your school of thinking or let you blow a gasket in that way. But, emotions were flying, and you got a bunch of competitors out there, and you just snapped. So, but, yeah, at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but certainly a learning experience for all parties involved, I think.
So, Chris, paint the picture for us. Bring us into the scene there in Omaha. For those who have never been, how does the city really show out for an event like this? Are fan bases are all the fan bases there and rowdy right out of the gate, or does it feel like it's a little bit of a slow build as we get into day number 2 tomorrow?
Well, guys, the thing I've been saying since I got here on Wednesday, and, last year was my first ever trip to Omaha in the College World Series, and it was an incredible experience, just unlike any other event I've ever been to. This year feels like my first time all over again because LSU and Arkansas are here. And those two fan bases, if you know anything about them, let's just say the locals get really fired up, specifically when LSU comes to town, because they're here to party, and they really help the local economy from that standpoint. But no, the energy is, since we got here late Wednesday and certainly into yesterday, people already filing in. It is, I'm telling you, it's one of the coolest events you'll ever go to. Even if your team is not here, if you just love baseball and love college baseball especially, you got to make it out here one day. I mean, it's really cool to see the collection of people coming together. And you got a bunch of the locals, too. They're like Nebraska fans, or it's just people that are baseball fans. It's a really, really cool mix and it's cool to be surrounded by people who appreciate the game, love the event, obviously, and yeah, it's guys. I'll put it to you this way, because you're in the Palmetto State. I'm from the Palmetto State. For those who are familiar being around Augusta during Masters Week, that's essentially what that is to Omaha, Nebraska. Like, it is their version of Masters Week. So if you've ever been to Augusta and you felt the energy and it's like this is the coolest place in the world for a week, Omaha, Nebraska is the coolest place in the world for these 2 weeks. It's truly an event unlike any other, and just something I think you really got to experience.
You mentioned it, Chris, tomorrow night, that SEC matchup where you're going to see a ton, in my mind, of MLB prospects on display between the two programs. Really good pitchers, really good hitters. Chase Shores coming back after Tommy John hitting over or pitching over 101 at times this season. What do you make of this matchup? Obviously, they're very familiar with one another, but it seems like this is kind of our marquee event tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, guys, it's the consensus around Omaha from LSU, Arkansas fans, and fans outside of those two fan bases. The consensus is the winner of this game is going to be in the finals. And that may not play out to be true, but that's the type of intensity I think you can expect tomorrow night, and the type of sense of urgency when it comes to a matchup like this is I think both sides feel like, hey, not that it'd be impossible if you go into the loser's bracket, but if you want to get to the finals, you got to win this one tomorrow night. So it is going to be as electric an atmosphere as you'll see in the College World Series at any point. I think it's going to have the feeling of a finals matchup, but obviously in game one for both these teams, like you mentioned, they're very familiar with each other. I mean, I remember watching specifically this game when the two faced off, the Friday night game especially, where it's the same pitchers we're going to get tomorrow night, Cade Anderson and Zach Root. Anderson for LSU, obviously Root for Arkansas. That game was a 5-4 game that came down to a walk-off on a late night in Baton Rouge at Alex Box Stadium. So, guys, I think it's going to be another very similar contest to that. I think the two things.
Chris, we still got you? We lost you for a split second.
Yes, you still got me?
Yeah,
we
we got you back.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so sorry, the Omaha service. No, anyway, so I think it's going to be a very similar matchup to what we saw the first time these two teams played when we had Cade Anderson against Zach Root. Low-scoring game, 4-3, 5-4. Probably going to come down to one side or the other, gets a big knock in the 7th or 8th inning. Obviously, it comes down, guys, pitching, defense, timely hitting. We know the keys to baseball. But, yeah, it's elite on elite, and the winner is on the high road to the College World Series final. It's no guarantee, obviously, especially this postseason has taught us. It is no guarantee, but, man, you feel pretty good about the winner. They are set up really, really nicely to make a run to the final. So this game's going to carry that type of intensity, that type of energy, and just really, truly can't wait to see it play out.
Chris, Cole and I did a little matchup prediction earlier in the show, and we were pretty unanimous that UCLA probably going to get past Murray State tomorrow. But, you know, that's a team that won their conference tournament. They took down Duke. They won 2 of 3 against Ole Miss in the regional and super regional round. They beat Georgia Tech. Can you make a case of how the Murray State Racers get past the Bruins tomorrow?
Well, guys, I think most people are actually picking Murray State.
Really?
I think the baseball folks I've talked to, yeah, at least they're a very popular upset pick. And, does that come from maybe a lot of folks want to see the Cinderella story play out and Murray State make a run potentially? But I think UCLA is a sleeper in that bottom bracket number 2, if you will. I do think they're a bit of a sleeper. UCLA is a team, if you look at them in the postseason, been swinging it really well. The thing you question with UCLA and Murray State is pitching depth, and I think Murray State especially. As great as the run they've made to this point has been, I do think pitching depth is going to be a concern with them. But, guys, again, if this postseason has taught us anything, expect the unexpected. You just don't know what you're going to get. I think a lot of them, if not all of them, are going to be really close, intense games. And the big case for Murray State, guys, they can swing it. I mean, I think they can swing it with about near anybody in this field. So, you play the Racers, they got nothing to lose. You better come ready. But what I'm curious of Murray State is, guys, most teams that get to Omaha for their first time, they've kind of got that bright-eyed, like, we're happy to be here. Like, it's almost kind of an overwhelming thing for them. I wonder if you're Murray State, if that's not the case with them as well. I do wonder if some of the, hey, we've never been here before kind of shows itself. But really excited to see because, again, they've been a great story. But, again, I think the consensus, you feel pretty good. That an SEC team is coming out of that bottom bracket. I'd be really surprised otherwise.
Chris, my last question for you. When you talk about the College World Series coming to an end, we saw a really interesting move just last week with Chris Pollard and the ACC. When the college baseball season officially ends, what do you think the biggest coaching move might be in the SEC?
Well, guys, I think the biggest coaching move probably already happened. That was Brian O'Connor going to Mississippi State, and I love that hire for the Dogs. I think State's going to be good sooner rather than later. I really do. I'm a big believer in Brian O'Connor, and I'm a believer in what that program can be. I mean, especially Mississippi State guys. Let's face it. Baseball is essentially now their number one sport. That's what they're going to start pouring their resources in. And you've got the facilities, obviously. You've got tradition. So I think he's going to get that thing going really, really quickly. Did a great job at Virginia with limited resources, right? So outside of that, I mean, guys, we know Paul Maneri's back, so that's not an issue. We know Wes Johnson signed a contract extension at Georgia, so I don't think he's going anywhere. I think if Mike Bianco was going to make a move at Ole Miss, like retire or what have you, that potentially, I think that would have already happened. I mean, the only thing that I can maybe see happening, and I think this is a reach, is if Arkansas wins it, does Dave Van Horn consider stepping down? Does he consider, because I think he's getting closer to retirement. I'm not saying it's this year, but I'd probably give it a 5-year window. I think he's certainly on the back nine of his career. So I don't know. I don't really – I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't really think we're in for any big-time coaching moves. I mean, the only other one I could think is maybe does Mizzou move off Carrick Jackson, which I think would be a terrible move because I think Carrick Jackson is a quality coach, and that's just the hardest job probably in college baseball. So, no, I think we already got the big one, guys, the Mississippi State job and Brian O'Connor taking it. Outside of that, I think any other change would be a pretty big surprise.
Chris, do you think the magic of Omaha holds up to House versus NCAA and all the changes that are going to come out of that, and including fully funded scholarships?
I do. I think baseball has actually held up pretty well with, because most of the conversation, I know you guys, at least, I don't know if you'd agree, but you at least hear me out when I'm saying that, what it's done to college football from the standpoint of the offseason, right? The portal, NIL, house settlement stuff. It's kind of made the offseason deplorable in a way. Like we talk football less than we ever have before during the offseason. Right now it's all this other stuff that it seems like we talk about up until, thankfully, we're coming around to SEC Media Days. I think that's when you're really going to get conversations about rosters and games and predictions, and that's the fun stuff. That's the stuff that I like doing. So baseball stood up pretty good against it. We'll see the changes, how they affect it. But, no, I think college baseball has actually shown they're able to stand up against the changes that are happening. And no, I think the magic of Omaha will continue. There's such a positive energy around college baseball. Grow the game. There's such a commitment to shining more light on the athletes and the teams and the coaches. And, even with the changes in college sports, college baseball is still kind of fighting an uphill battle from the standpoint of exposure and still trying to generate revenue across the country, these different programs. So, no, I think Omaha is going to continue to be a really, really special event. I'd be surprised if we ever got to a point where it lost its luster, if you will.
Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. You're there in Omaha for the long haul, correct? The whole tournament?
As long as the SEC is here, yes, sir. So I'm hoping to be here the full 2 weeks. That's the plan. That's what my expectation is. But, yeah, we are here through the full event.
How about we get you on sometime next week for another live update in Omaha?
Yeah, would love to do it, guys. Always a pleasure. I really enjoy it.
Thanks,
Awesome.
man.
Thanks, Chris.
Awesome, guys. Y'all the best. Appreciate it.
Chris Phillips, SEC Unfiltered Diesel, live, as you said, from Omaha.
When we come back, we'll stay in the SEC, kind of. Coach O was confronted, and some people would say assaulted, on the beach. We'll tell you about it. Who's right, who's wrong? That's next on the Fan Upstate. So we're living in a world, Cole, where everybody's got a cell phone at all times. Everybody's recording. Everybody wants to get a celebrity to do something wild on their camera so that they can post it and get internet clout. For whatever reason, that's the world we live in. And Coach O, Ed Orgeron, he got over the weekend, Cole. He was out at the beach. I assume with his family. You can't tell in this particular video clip. But here's some audio of an Alabama fan rolling up on Ed Orgeron. And I thought Coach O did a fantastic job putting this disrespectful you-know-what in his place.
Coach, sorry to bother you.
All right, man.
Here we go, baby. Roll Tide.
All right, here you go. Not really.
I know.
What was that about?
Look, I respect you as a person. I was a big
What
fan.
was that about?
I respect you as a fan.
I wouldn't take those Tigers to see after I take a picture of you.
Understand.
Have a good day, man.
Hey.
Where you from?
I'm from Alabama.
What part?
Tuscaloosa, actually.
You from
So
Tus-
you got to understand. That ain't nothing towards you.
No,
That's-
ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But look, here, just respect.
Yes, sir.
I mean, what the man? Hey, if you're from LSU, you wouldn't go to the Nick Saban and say go Tigers, would you?
I think some people would, but
You wouldn't. You would.
I want
You would.
So this guy sees Ed Orgeron walking down a path, and he stops him for a selfie. And he says, "Roll Tide" to him. Of course, he's trolling the guy. Maybe he knew he was already there. I don't know if somebody put him up to it. Well, he did it. And he's like, and Ed calls him on it. And he's like, "Well, but I respect you as a person." No, you don't. You don't respect him as a person if that's what you chose to do. So don't try to fall back on this. "Oh, I respect you, man. I respect you." You clearly don't have any respect. And so you stopped him under false pretenses of a positive interaction and a selfie. And then you trolled him, and then Coach became Coach again, put him in his place. It's so funny how he starts out as this, "Man, I respect you. I respect you." And he's like, "No, man, that's not how you show respect." He goes, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir."
Diesel, you couldn't be more wrong on
What?
this. What did he do disrespectful?
He stopped him for a selfie and then trolled him in the process.
He said, "Roll Tide."
But you know full well what he did there. You know full well he was trolling Ed Orgeron.
Yeah,
If he had said, "Hey, Coach, thank you, appreciate the selfie, have a great vacation," that's a respectful, positive interaction. He chose to say something that he knew would rile Ed Orgeron up. He did that.
Ed Orgeron needs to use Charmin because Ed Orgeron is soft. He's soft.
No,
Are you kidding me?
We have a complete and utter lack of respect for anybody in this society
But I don't
anymore.
Consider saying "Roll Tide" after getting a picture disrespectful because I remember many, many years ago when South Carolina continued to beat Clemson year in and year out. People would go up to Dabo Swinney, and anytime he was in public, and what would they do? They'd put the 4 up, right? They put the 4-peat up. They put the 3-peat up. And Dabo Swinney, guess what? It's college football, man. Like, are you kidding me? We've gotten so soft to where we can't even say "Roll Tide" to a LSU coach. Has he ever met LSU fans, by the way? This is the most Charmin soft thing I've ever seen in my life from Ed Orgeron. Shame on him.
What do you think, Tolos? 844-326-3663. Was Ed in the right to not take the random troll job out in public, or was he being soft? You tell us. 844-326-3663.
Charmin soft is what it is. Charmin soft Ed Orgeron. You can't even say "Roll Tide" anymore. He's getting his feelings. Hey, speaking of getting in his feelings, Clemson fans, some of them got in their feelings last night, but some did not. Some were level-headed. What did I do last night on Twitter to stir up some Clemson fans when it comes to Grayson Mann, who will join the show to rebuke what I said to him last night on Twitter? Do I have a point, Diesel? Am I wrong when it comes to the tweet that I sent out last night? If you haven't seen it, I'll fill you in on what's happening, and Grayson Mann will hop in the stream to defend himself next. Is Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com, to blame? I'm kidding. Are other media members to blame? That is the real question we ask, and we're joined in this very segment by Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. You heard him here on the Fan Upstate many, many times, does fantastic work on TigerNet.com, and you can give him a follow on Twitter, on X, if you have not done so already. If you are a Clemson fan, great follow on social media. But I did have a little fun last night on Twitter just to, I don't want to say just to stir the pot, but Diesel, it was a question that had been bouncing off of my head for quite a while, and Grayson Mann, being the journalist that he is, gave me the opportunity to ask the question. So to set the scene, Grayson Mann last night tweets, Eric Bakich has gone on a heater in the transfer portal. He acknowledged this current group had its flaws and perhaps overachieved in the win column. It hasn't even been 2 weeks since the season concluded, and this roster is already massively improved. I used Grayson's tweet as an opportunity for those who are not on Twitter to ask, define gone on a heater. Not saying you are wrong, but are we as local media sometimes responsible for setting fans' expectations too high? For example, signing talent in the portal was A+++, but when we set these expectations, what happens when these players bust or don't pan out? I was told last offseason that Bakich signed dudes, and those dudes didn't quite pan out like expected. Not singling you out, but how do we know these portal acquisitions will actually pan out and make the team better? Could they? Sure, but it just feels like in baseball, individual play matters so much, and the chance of them living up to the hype doesn't always meet the mark. 13.3 thousand views and a lot of replies and retweets and some conversation later. Grayson Mann joins us on Grayson Mann of TigerNet joins us on the Fan Upstate Diesel. Before we get to Grayson Mann, my comment, fair, unfair in your mind?
Well, clearly Cole has a blue check mark because that's way more characters than I would be able to fit into any tweet. So congratulations on that. Look, I mean,
not painting you in a corner here, buddy.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I mean,
if you think it's on, yeah, I mean,
you want to include a fair amount of hype in these players. I mean, they have some pedigree. They're coming here off the transfer portal. They're not bums. By being recruited by Clemson, clearly they have some talent. Is it unfair to say this is a great recruiting class or a great portal class? No. Is it unfair to maybe say, well, next year they're going to be in Omaha? Yeah, that's unfair.
Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com joins the show. Grayson, glad you could hop on with us. Appreciate you as always, and I appreciate your tweet because, in all seriousness, I had been thinking about this for quite some time, and your tweet last night gave me the opportunity not only to have some great conversation with you and other Clemson fans out there, but also to ask a question. In your mind, Grayson Mann, do you think sometimes the media is to blame for setting the bar too high?
I think it depends on who's the one that's stirring the pot or generating that said hype. I felt like my comments last night, and you and I discussed it, was not more or less setting expectations, but just circling back to Eric Bakich's comments a few weeks ago where he said, yeah, this roster has its shortcomings, and they're still probably not done because half of the checklist, as Bakich described it, was adding power arms to this roster. Now they've added some power hitting, which they desperately missed and had some inconsistencies. Whether you look at Ty Daly, and obviously in the case of Ryan Weidman, it's going to probably come down to the MLB draft and where he falls, whether he comes to Clemson. But I do believe they went out and got some premium talent in the portal. And sort of how you and I discussed it, I always view these acquisitions, especially with the way college sports are, sort of like we do with the pro drafts, whether it's the NBA, NFL, where, and I use the Falcons as an example here, in this draft class, they needed their glaring weakness was pass rusher. They go out and got two. So at the time of June 13th, I think a lot of people, at least Falcons fans in those corners, will go, okay, the Falcons did their job. They saw a glaring need and they filled it. That's good on that front office for recognizing it. Now, in November, if both of them turn out to be busts or not as much as desired, I think the evaluation, it sort of gives us the opportunity to change our opinions, because we could say, like we did last summer, oh man, this class is great. You bring in Gaffney, you bring in a freshman of the year and that guy, you bring Colin Priest. Bakich doing a great job of attracting talent on a consistent basis, on an off-season to off-season basis. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the results on the diamond, how we truly adjudicate it. So I think you have to look at it from both angles of, okay, Clemson's able to answer in the portal. Now it's just going to come down to how they develop and nurture that talent. We saw it with basketball this year. They missed on some and they hit on some. It's just kind of the nature of how it is on this yearly basis of it's a consistent rebuilding of the roster through the portal.
So Grayson, talk about these new acquisitions relative to what other schools, especially in the ACC, are doing. I know with college football, there's really easy portal trackers, and we can rank the classes fairly easily. I apologize, I don't know about how that works with baseball, if we have something similar there. But, you know, you can always get better as a team, but what matters is how much better do you get relative to the teams around you, relative to the teams that you're going to face in conference or that you could likely face in postseason play.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to, and I think as of right now, the top ranking system is Clemson at 5. I'm pretty sure. So they've built a top 5 portal class as of this Friday afternoon. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, how does Weidman face North Carolina's pitching staff? How are they going to face Coastal on a midweek? I think those answers, obviously, we looked at this with Clemson football's portal class of, okay, they're bringing in Will Helt. That's a glaring need. But can Will Helt create consistent pressure against potentially LSU in the opener or against South Carolina? I think right now we're dealing in the world of hypotheticals where we're trying to put something into a reality that's not set yet. And so it's going to be difficult for us to go and say, okay, I think Weidman's going to hit 350 and have 25 homers for Clemson. And that would be a big improvement for this lineup. But we truly just don't know. Weidman could go to the draft. Injuries could play a factor in it. There's just so many exonerating circumstances. But I do think within that discussion, and circling back to what Cole said, sometimes we maybe do charge the fire a little bit too much. And I think maybe for a program that their goal is as high as it can be with Omaha, there's no, okay, well, they made a super regional, we're going to give them a pass this year.
Yeah.
No, it's make it to the highest grand stage of college baseball. So when we charge the Flames a little bit on Twitter, and maybe I'm guilty of that as well, I'm open to admit it, but I do think that this portal class, when you're chasing after that Omaha goal, you have to go far, and so far Clemson has done that.
Yeah, and Grayson, I think you said that well. Again, not singling you out by any means. I just think your tweet gave me that great opportunity to do so. I guess my thing is with the conversation here, you're right. This Clemson program seems as if they are just dying, chomping at the bit to get back to Omaha, right? And I don't know, when you and others who are on the Clemson beat and work for other Clemson-led networks, right? I don't know how it feels because I've never been on that side of things, right? I have to kind of keep it down the middle, if you will. So I understand that y'all's job is to obviously, especially with recruiting as you do a lot of, hype up some of the guys because – it's Clemson fans, after all, that you are talking to. And I think that brings up a really fun conversation because on this station, right, we cover Clemson, we cover South Carolina. We have a lot of Clemson fans that listen. We have a lot of South Carolina fans that listen. And your job, TigerNet.com, you're solely focused on Clemson, and your job is to paint Clemson in as positive as a light as you can while being objective. Do you find that tough at times to try to balance that?
I mean, it's difficult for me, especially because if you walk around in public, eventually they're going to see that Clemson ring on my finger. So I have to tote the line even further of hoping that people see that analysis as objective. And I love that you brought up the recruiting as an example, is because we're talking about Matt Luke's successes right now on the recruiting trail. And it's a little bit easier, I think, for me to analyze football than maybe it is for a baseball transfer because I see Leo Delaney, for example. I'm looking at his certain techniques off of his breaks or out of his pass protection. I'm like, okay, that's something that can translate to the next level. It might be a little difficult for, let's say, how a Weidman looks against a pitching staff in the Conference USA versus, okay, how is this going to look against South Carolina in a rivalry week? Or how is this going to look? And I think MLB.com, their top scout, that's sort of the concern, is that when the degree of talent increases, he may be tending to struggle a little bit more. So it's all going to come down to how this staff hones this group in. And I think the right way to look at it when we take a look at portal classes is not through the, okay, let's project how far they could go. I think we have to look at it from what did they accomplish or what did they say they needed to accomplish. And for Clemson, it was, okay, how do they rebuild this roster that's lost so many players, and specifically basketball? They went out and did that. So I would consider that a successful offseason. Clemson baseball right now, I think they're probably 85 to 90% complete in terms of completing their checklist. They went and got power hitting. They got talent from across the country. If they can add a quality arm or two, I'd consider that a successful offseason. And then we'll see how that translates into the results.
I guess my only follow-up with that to be, and I don't know if this is a rebuttal or not, but talking about the checklist, I completely agree with you. I guess this is where I come from. You're checking them off, but are we checking them off, and I'm not singling you out, are we checking them off too soon? Because, they addressed a need, but Clemson hasn't been in Omaha in a very long time. So maybe we wait till the end of the season to check them off, because the portal acquisitions from last year, we checked those off when they were on the roster, but those guys didn't contribute the way they were supposed to, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think maybe we have to add a separate category of, okay, we're going to adjudicate what they did in the offseason, and then let's see how those offseason wish lists carried over into the regular season, postseason. And so let's say, Cole, we're speaking a year from now, and we're saying that, let's say Ryan Weidman, for example, is the ACC Player of the Year and Clemson's in Omaha. Then you're like, wow, what an analysis. What an evaluation from Eric Bakich and this staff. And I'm not saying that necessarily could happen, but we're just trying to use an example for the sake of this conversation. So maybe, I think that the way you sort of articulate it is, I kind of want to wait and see here before we dive fully into this. And I think that's totally fair to look at from that point.
Grayson, we found ourselves square in the journalism versus sensationalism debate. And, we all know sometimes that line gets blurred. We're all beholden to clicks and ad buys. It's just a fact. And you know as well as I do, sensationalism oftentimes pays the bills. So talk to me about your philosophy and TigerNet's philosophy. How do you temper your words and make sure that there's something real to point to? So if you do have a little bit of a sensational headline, or what some may consider to be a sensational headline, how do you make sure that that's not just, manufactured out of the ether, that there is something real to point to when you say those things?
I think it just comes down to the mission that we're trying to provide at TigerNet, is that it's strictly Clemson coverage, and that we want to be objective at the same time, provide some oomph to it, and provide something for you to be able to draw in and listen to it. There's a story that I worked on with Ben Boulware, and just sort of from my eyes, and it was more of a column piece than anything, that I felt like Sweeney's promotion of Boulware has already started to pay off, and we have evidence to point to it. And so you sort of lay it out like that, and then plant the story, hook them, and and try not to mislead. The goal is to never try to sway somebody or make you click an article and they're like, wait, it's sort of, I had the same problem when I was a high school kid looking up Call of Duty YouTube videos. I see one thing in the title, then I go, wait, I came here for nothing. It wastes my time. And so that's just sort of, and the same philosophy try to apply with Twitter. I don't want to put something out there that wastes somebody's time. Yeah. An example was after the Georgia game, and this is just sort of the nature of who I am, a glass half full kind of guy. I pulled the highlight of Cade's throw to Antonio Williams and felt, if there's something here this season, I think we found it in this one play. Let's pause the brakes. Georgia's a pretty darn good football team. Let's see how App State goes before we pass on judgment. And eventually it led to a playoff season. Obviously, not necessarily the way you probably thought it would, with the way Syracuse fell into the equation. But I think there are sort of times to be positive and then maybe times to be a little more critical. But I think it just depends on who you are.
And by the way, I want to be very, very clear for those listening on 97.1 FM in Spartanburg or 97.7 FM in Greenville, on the Odyssey app, or the 508 watching on the stream right now on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I have never seen anything on Twitter of Grayson Manns or online that I've thought, man, this is This is not right. He's being too much of a
Thank you.
fan here. Other people, sure. You, no, not at all. I really mean that. I'm not just saying that because I had you on and we talked about it last night. Me bringing that tweet up was not like to be derogatory towards you or TigerNet. We love you. We love having you on, and we love David and everybody at TigerNet. But maybe I'm just different. I do find it fascinating sometimes to ask questions and, sometimes push the narrative a little bit. And you know what I found interesting, and I didn't expect this, I will be honest with you. I had a couple of Clemson fans, and you probably saw them replying to you and I, that actually agreed. And maybe, Grayson, what it all boils down to is, and tell me if I'm wrong here, is there's a large majority of Clemson fans that are tired of coming up short, that are tired of going home in their own regionals, right?
I think that there were a lot of people that were probably rubbed the wrong way when you had people talking about taking the Omaha phrase off of the hats and just sort of the frustration of we keep hearing the same talking points to start the season, and yet there doesn't feel like there's much progress. Yeah. To me, this offseason, this postseason felt like the end of the Erik Bakich honeymoon. So there's a lot more people less willing to forgive. Not saying that the fans are all of a sudden going to turn on him, but I think they're going to just look at it through a more critical lens. And just to your point about the tweets and sort of the conversation, it's great to have that back and forth and just a little bit of challenge here and there, even if there's no malice to it. I think it's good to have the brain work out a little bit every now and then. So it's good to have that discussion.
So it's Omaha or bust, right?
I think it should be. If that's going to be your standard, might as well keep it.
If you're going to have it on your hat, right? Like that's just my, it is on your hat, and it's been a long time. So it is interesting. And I thought you phrased that well, by the way, the honeymoon phase of Erik Bakich. And I think you're right on that. Not that fans are like ready to move on, but guess what? No. Losing does to fans. Losing makes fans think in different ways that they normally do, regardless of what us in the media say, right?
It took Patriots fans a couple seasons for the last 6 Super Bowl for them to turn on Belichick. So I've seen it, and I was part of it. So you can only take so many losses in a certain way. So I can see where people are coming from.
Yeah. Grayson, let's bring you into the debate we had earlier in the show. We were talking about ranking the baseball programs in the state of South Carolina. Coastal Carolina just got it done, 7-4 over Arizona in Omaha.
Yeah, he's going to go.
So
technical difficulties, guys.
Yeah. We just went over all this. So how would you, Grayson Man of TigerNet, by the way, rank 1, 2, 3 the D1 baseball programs in the state of South Carolina?
Hello?
Yeah. What's that all?
Yeah, try to start manufacturing some. This thunderstorm needs to hurry up.
Yeah.
But I think right now you have to put Coastal at 1. I mean, they're the team that's still playing right now, and so I think we have to also look at the body of work. And Coastal again, I think still takes the cake on that. And so for Clemson, I think they're probably, and this is where it's tough because I think body of work. You look at some of South Carolina's successes in the 2000s compared to Clemson's, and it's probably you'd lean South Carolina. But I do think as of last 5 or 6 years, maybe Clemson's turned that corner. It's tough, I think. When it comes down to 1, it's pretty simple for me. But 2 and 3, I know that there's probably a lot of people that are quick to put South Carolina at 3 because of this last season. But their overall body of work would suggest otherwise. So it's kind of tough. I would be... This is probably a cop-out answer, but I think you could probably interchange the two as a 2A or 2B. And so maybe me stalling out, I lag out and prevented from making a serious answer. But I think right now Coastal is probably the easy one, and it probably depends on who you ask for Clemson or Carolina. But all 3 programs at their best have been incredibly successful, but you got to give Coastal the nod for some of those recent appearances. And as well, they're the ones playing in Omaha right now and just won. I believe they're playing Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
One.
Oh, that's a big win for them.
Lucky for you, Grayson, we're out of time. We don't have time for follow-up, so we can't grill
Saved
you on
me.
your 1A or
And
2A,
by the
2B
way,
question.
Grayson, I just have it online. Clemson beat writer ranks Coastal ahead of Clemson. It is now
Clemson beat writer argues Tigers' third best team in the state.
Clemson beat writer says Gamecock supreme. Go ahead and clip that.
Grayson, you're the best. Always appreciate the conversation. Really do mean that. Love your work. Love having these. JD, somebody you mentioned, love. Let me find the comment from earlier.
Shout out JD, man.
Yeah. Said, I think y'all handled it the way a sports discussion should go, respectfully and with dignity. Love the interaction. And that's what it's all about, the interaction. We had some good interaction. Grayson, always appreciate you, man.
Hey, appreciate you guys. God bless y'all. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thanks, Grayson
Mann, TigerNet.com. Boston Celtics hat, always representing strong as he does on the stream. Coastal, what did you say, 7-4? Did they bust it open?
Yeah, 7-4. It got tight right down at the end. Arizona had runners on first and third and hit into a double play to end it. So Coastal padded the lead, got up 3, and then in the top of the ninth, Arizona couldn't get it done. Couldn't mount the comeback.
Texter on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, chants all the way up. Here we go, CCU. We're going to get a phone call real quick before we run to a break. Texter also asks, is the discussion for ranking the top college baseball teams limited to D1? Well, Diesel, earlier, as I grabbed this call, I threw a D2 team in mine, right?
Yeah, you put NGU in yours
what
because
you
of the
mean?
job that Landon Powell has done up there. Truly exceptional work up there.
And I might be a little
willing to
biased.
bet, Cole, if you put NGU in a round robin tournament with those 4 teams, I don't think they'd come in last.
I'd hope not. That'd be fun. I'll admit I am a little biased there. We got time for a phone call real quick.
Let's get Tom in here.
Tom in Somerville. What's up, Tom?
Hey, guys. Yeah, hey, Cole, you were cracking me up last night on Twitter, but as the day goes on, the more I thought about it today is I like what your point you were trying to make. You know, it's as much as I hate to say it, you know, it's Clemson. The fans expect to get the top transfers and have good recruits come in every single year. So when you have, you know, a disappointing ending, I get what you're saying. It just seems cheesy and corny to come out there and say, well, you know, this might be the year they have a great class come in, because you don't know how great they're going to be. And I think South Carolina fans, as odd as this sounds, are kind of going through the same thing, because, you know, Paul and his staff have put together a great transfer class, and it is a great portal class. But at the same time, when you only win 6 or 7 conference games, you know, I don't care how many studs you bring in. You've got to prove it in the season. You can go out and sign the top class every single year. If you don't meet expectations, and for South Carolina and Clemson, that expectation is the same, get to the College World Series, I don't want to hear about top recruiting classes. I don't. It means nothing, because both programs, you know, have that same expectation is to get to the College World Series. And you know, Grayson is very good at what he does. I love reading his stuff on Twitter sometimes, but you know, it's more so for the others involved, fans involved. You know, you got to quit dwelling on how many, you know, top players you bring in. The goal, the expectation is to get to Omaha and compete for a national championship. And when you don't do that, nothing else matters, no matter who the coach is.
Hey, Tom, speaking of having fun on Twitter, what's worse as a fan base? Not showing up as far as attendance, or leaving your stadium early? We're talking about Miami and South Carolina fans here.
Not showing up.
Not showing up is worse.
Yeah, not showing up.
You hear that, Mad Cow?
Is worse. Is worse. You know, you have to show up. If you go out there and you claim this, that, and the other, you know, Miami historically, ever since the early 2000s, has been probably the worst power country at that. I mean, they've had good football teams, and yet you look in the stands, and it looks like a Marlins baseball game.
Yeah.
There's 10 people there, and to me, that's more embarrassing than leaving early.
And
60. By the way, 66% over the last 5 years. Miami has averaged 66% of stadium capacity.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, I will say this to your original point. I think it was well said. I do think that both fan bases have that expectation. But, the way I look at it is, to your point, I think you said it really well there. Rankings don't always equate to being in Omaha. And I think that's where my biggest thing is ranking. You can have all the rankings you want, but do you want to have rankings or do you want to be in the College World Series? Coastal's in the College World Series. I don't know if Coastal was top 3 or top 5 in rankings last year without looking.
No, yeah, exactly. And, I mean, Alabama fans, when Saban had it rolling, do you think they cared about recruiting rankings? Absolutely not. That never really mattered because the expectation was always to win the national championship.
Yeah.
And if Clemson wants to have that expectation, one, they got to get back to the College World Series first. But if you want to, compete at a high level and say you're a great baseball program, you got to get back to Omaha.
Yeah. Tom, you're the man.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep. Go Gamecocks!
All right.
Get that in. That's his That is his
We
Tom.
didn't hear from Dewey today, did we?
No
phone calls
on
from
the
Dewey.
text line we did, but it was first segment. And
I think
I
he's
don't know.
playing in a sandbox somewhere.
Yeah, I hadn't heard from him.
Where you at, Dewey?
I don't know. Dewey might be not allowed to call yet.
Texter said, his mom may not have given him her phone yet. Texter, this is JD, says, yeah, Tom, results over recruiting rankings. That's easy. Well, it's true. It's
How's it
absolutely
easy?
true.
What do you?
Results matter over
Yeah,
recruiting
they
rankings.
matter. They certainly do matter.
Is JD saying thanks, Captain Obvious? I think that might be a little bit of what he's trying to say.
Well, if
there.
he is saying that, I would say back to JD. Evidently, it's not obvious. Go look on Twitter. I'm not calling anybody out. Not great. Certainly not Grayson. But it is ranking season.
Think of it in terms, Cole, of a big, impressive trophy because you just won a championship versus a teeny tiny little trophy that says you just had a top 5 recruiting class. They're still they're both trophies, but they're not the same
Well,
thing.
the reality is, if you're Clemson, and this may be hard to hear, do you want Omaha on the back of your hat, or do you want top recruiting rankings on the back of your hat? It's up to you.
More like Nomaha.
I don't know. It's just to me. It's just you just have to look at things objectively, and I think if more people did that, there would be less expectations, Diesel, and less fans, being upset when it was all said and done.
When we come back, Cole, because this conversation went long, we'll do a shortened, truncated version of Friday Fives. We'll give away high fives, and you Tolos can join in as well. 844-326-3663. You want to shout out an individual performance. Could be yours, could be your kids. Try to keep bedroom talk out of it. Don't care how you performed there last night, but we will do our Friday Fives next. Congratulations to Kevin Schnall and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Got it done in Game 1 of the College World Series. A 7-4 victory over Arizona. They got the arms. They got the depth. Congratulations to them. And they continue on through the winners bracket. Arizona now with their backs against the wall, Cole.
Yeah, they are, but you know what? We don't care because all we care about is Coastal Carolina. That's who we were pulling for in this state. And I'll tell you what, I'm really impressed. For them to do what they did in the regional, super regional, they're the hottest team in college baseball right now.
Yeah, high five to the staff there that pulled this off, the starting pitching today. That is my very first high five to the Coastal Carolina starter, and apologies, I'm trying to get his name. That would have been Eichhoff. He pitched 4 innings, gave up 6 hits, 2 runs, 4 Ks, and he had himself a big day, but they kept this team down. Arizona, again, they were scoreless through 3, put up 2 runs in the 4th inning, and Coastal Carolina rallied back, and they got the dub. That's my very first Friday five. We'll get a sound effect going at some point here, Cole. A little whoosh. Yeah. High five for that. JD says high five to Snitker and the Braves for allowing a pitcher to throw a complete game.
Yeah, it took, what, 3 months? I mean, come on. Did it really take that long? I think it did, but he's right.
James says, wow, so that's what a win in Omaha looks like. James, by the way, are you subscribed to our YouTube channel? You're commenting on YouTube right now. If you haven't, JD, I'm pretty sure you have, but if you haven't, this applies to you as well. JB and the other Tolos who have been in the stream all afternoon, have you guys subscribed to the YouTube channel? Help us grow.
You need to, if you haven't done so. I do want to read this text. This is a high five for putting this PSA out there because it's a tough text to read, but I do appreciate the text from one of our faithful Tolos who we've seen out on location at Ingles recently. Bubba Brooks, 986, texts the show on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, and my high five is to him for putting this out there, not acknowledging that he has this terrible thing, but for him to let other men who may be listening know to go get checked. What am I talking about here? Bubba Brooks 86 says, my cancer is back and I have a Tolo PSA. Go get yourself pre-screened for cancer, whatever the test is, blood work, colonoscopy, mammograms, etc. Do it now before it's too late. That comes from Bubba Brooks. Look, yeah, that's a good word. It's a good word, and I think me and you had that conversation at Ingles a couple of weeks ago last time we were out there. Hate to hear that, Bubba Brooks, and look, you said it best, I think, the other day. Cancer doesn't discriminate, and it's a terrible, terrible thing, Diesel. Yeah. It's awful to hear, Bubba Brooks, but we'll certainly be pulling for you, man.
We are, and, the fact that he says it's back, that means he's had it and he's beat it once before. So, yep. Bubba, we are – obviously, we're all here praying for you. We all know that you're going to kick its ass a second time. Do what it takes, fight the fight. And, of course, we'll be here for you, whether it's just keeping you entertained by listening to the show, whether it's offering the positive words that we can and providing whatever updates to the main Tolos, because we're all a family and they all care about you too. So whatever updates you want to share throughout your process and your fight here, we will share them for you. And that way – our Tolos can shoot their prayers your way as well.
Yep, absolutely echo that. And I told you at Ingles, Bubba Brooks, and I do mean it. We'll continue to pray for you, man. Hopefully, man, you, like Diesel said, you can kick it in the rear one more time, and hopefully that'll be the last time. But we'll all be thinking about you for sure.
Cole, do you want to throw a Friday high five? Another one? Or do you want to pause there?
You go.
Okay.
You go
here's one, and I like to try to find some of the deep dive individual sports performances to throw these out there here for you, Cole. This is a guy whose name I am going to butcher. I promise you I'm going to butcher it. Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
It sounds right.
A middle distance runner who broke the indoor mile world record with 3 minutes, 45 seconds, .14. He ran a mile in 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
You don't do that?
No. No, that's my first lap. What are you talking about, man? He was
Say that again.
3 minutes and 45 seconds.
He was on a speed bike, or what was he on?
No, he wasn't in a go-kart. He was on his feet.
Running a mile and
Running a mile.
I don't know. My cardio is not where it needs to be. I don't know how long it would take me to. I would just like to be able to run a mile without having to stop a little bit and walk. Right?
That's just barely over a minute per lap.
That's
Or under a minute. Excuse me. Is it under? Yeah, under a minute per lap.
Do you think you can run a mile
Absurd.
without stopping at your age?
Yeah, totally.
I haven't done it in a while.
Like run? Are we talking run or jog?
Okay, let's do jog. That's more fair.
Jog? Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. There was a time when I was a 5-day-a-week CrossFitter, Cole, when I was running about a 7-minute mile.
It's not bad. It's not bad at
Yeah,
all.
it's not lightning fast, but it's also in like CrossFit shoes.
Yeah.
In the middle of a workout.
I have a place where near where I live where I go, and it's a loop, and it's not the size of a track, but it's close. So it's roughly four loops, 4 laps around the loop is roughly a mile. It's really, really close. I timed it, in the car. But I don't know running fast though. If I need to go do that. I need to go see what my time would be.
Yeah.
We did our 40s, but we need to do our miles.
Yeah,
now.
that's some endurance running right there. I know it's not like a, one of those ultra marathons and long distance, 30 lap runs around a track, but man, under 4 minutes for miles. Quick.
My last high five is to Terry Rooney. How about that, Gamecock fans? Pitching coach and recruiting coordinator at South Carolina. They're loading up. They're loading up again. Will these guys pan out? Going back to the conversation we had at 5:00, I don't know, but Terry Rooney has sent out quite a few Go-Cocks in the past few hours. 2 today, and it looks as if Terry Rooney and South Carolina are getting some guys in. Again, are they the right guys? Are they going to pan out? We don't know, but they are getting some guys in the South Carolina program. High five, Terry Rooney.
I've got another high five for you, and this one goes out to 2 separate players who are playing right now in the U.S. Open. Yesterday, J.J. Spawn completed a bogey-free round at Oakmont, which hasn't been done since 2016. And as of right now, Cole, and I don't want to jinx him here, but I don't think I can. I genuinely don't believe that I can have any effect on this.
Oh, yeah, Matt. No, Matt. No.
With 4 holes to go, American Maverick McNeely, which might be one of the greatest names ever.
I like
Maverick
that,
McNeely
Alliteration.
is accomplishing the same feat. He is 3 under through 14, and he has moved up 84 spots since yesterday. Tied for 14th at +3 overall.
That is not bad.
He's going to follow up a round 176 with a monster score, no matter what happens over the next 5 holes.
That is, I don't know what's more impressive, the 3-minute mile, or that's some good stuff there. It really is. Tolos, it is time to take a whip around what's happening in the sports world. So many headlines, so many updates we've got to give you in our Daily Wires. That's next.